Good morning. It's a Monday morning. I'm going to jump right in. Uh, the the focus for this week is the mystery, the creation. Right. So last week, the first video of the kind of principles series, I talked about like the principle of practice, which is the intersection of the understanding of the self and mystery, the mystery of creation, the mystery of the cosmos, the mystery of the fact that there is something rather than nothing, and the practice of meditation, or the practice, the kind of the spiritual way. One way of looking at it is establishing that intersection and then stabilizing it and growing it, maturing it, reaching out for this equanimous, this equilibrium. And I thought I would try to articulate some of the ideas that coalesce around the mystery, like in my thinking. And that's all this is. These are stories that I tell myself when I think about what is the cosmos. Right? So it's kind of I expect that each of you have different stories that may be informed by science. They may be informed by a religious, like an actual creation myth that has been handed down to you. But over the course of the next 4 videos, let's prompt that discussion. Now, for me, to start with, a lot of this, a lot of these ideas, a lot of the stories, the narratives that I hold close and dear, really come from my exposure to Terence McKenna. And in fact, 2 of his ideas that I will return to through the week, when I was making my notes for this, and I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I wasn't quite sure yet what I would say, I realized that I am really shaped by 2 ideas that I got from McKenna. And the first is the idea of what he says. He says, history is the shockwave of eschatology. So eschatology, the eschaton, is the end of time, which I would urge not to think of as a linear moment with the clocks are running and running and running, and then they stop running and everything is over. The end of time is not the end of all things. It is instead, well, we'll talk more about what it is, but it's kind of a stepping aside. And so in this hyperdimensional space, McKenna envisions an object that is throwing off illumination that catches visionaries and artists throughout history. It's a very interesting concept, because he also is very clear that history gets its own quotes and is the narrow window of the last 20,000 years or so, since real human language evolved. So very interesting. Idea 1, the eschaton, the eschatology, and the glittering hypercube in hyperspace, the eschaton. That's a very famous idea. It was included in a lot of, well, not a lot. It was included in one very, very famous 90s rave song by a group called the Shaman. So you've probably heard it. The second idea that McKenna talked about, I don't think got quite the circulation, but also came from the rap sessions that were recorded that McKenna gave. And it's this idea that complexity, including human culture, is the result of the cooling of the universe, and we start with these sort of subatomic, that right up to the singularity. There is no distinction at any level, and as things cool very rapidly, we get subatomic behavior, we get chemical bonds, and as things cool and cool, we are able to see or evaluate or experience greater complexity, leading to the epiphenomenon of consciousness. This I find really important because it, to me, shows the foundational nature of consciousness. Consciousness is as intrinsic a part of the cosmos, of the mystery, of the space that we inhabit. Consciousness is as intrinsic as gravity or any of the other rules that we are scientifically able to explain. It seems to me likely that if we were to apply the scientific paradigm to the study of consciousness, even with the difficult problems of that, we could arrive at a coherent rule. I don't think that's necessary, and maybe it's a bit misguided to do that. But the idea that there's this sense of cooling and precipitation, out of which emerges this microphone and what I'm saying here, and you listening, and the culture we live in, that I find deeply inspirational, because if that's the case, it holds true that our spiritual aspirations are kind of a return or an integration of that previous sense. Okay, so those two ideas will form the content of the videos Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thursday, as always, is going to be meditation Q&A. So as a reminder, if you have cues, if you have questions, send them to me as a comment on one of these videos or as an email, and I'll add that to the bucket for discussion on Thursday. But what I want to finish with today, so those are the two ideas that are really going to form the this articulation of a creation myth. And when I say creation myth, I mean sort of why are we here instead of not being here. But I want to talk for just a moment about a peculiar but distinctive characteristic of Terence McKenna. And it's peculiar in the sense that it could really, the way that most of us learned about McKenna and heard him was the result of these cassette tapes that were recorded during workshop sessions that he gave at Omega or Esalen or some of these, or other locations. He would go for a weekend, and in a series of, I guess, 2 to 3 hour sessions throughout the course of a weekend, would do these raps, these sessions. And often they took the form of the participants in the workshop would ask a question, and then he would speak on it for 20 minutes, and then another question would come up, perhaps related or perhaps totally unrelated, and he would speak on that. And these sort of these dialogue, except let's not call them a dialogue, they were more like a prompted monologue, really are McKenna would say this as well. This was the rich stream of his material. He would respond to a question. So he could have spoken for 6 hours on some topic, alchemy or evolution or space exploration or quantum physics, whatever was front and center on his mind as he started the workshop. But then these questions would come in and would redirect. And these were all, let's say this was in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I first heard some of these maybe in 2000, 98, 99, 2000 is when I was really first exposed to, and in some cases, I had an actual cassette tape that someone had copied from someone. Now today, all of these are available online. There are some fantastic resources that have cataloged and in some cases transcribed these cassettes. And it's kind of a wonderful archival challenge, because the same event could have been recorded by different people who would then call the speech, the rap, something different. So you could have the exact same material with a different title, because he didn't title the pieces. The people who participated would listen and then name the recording after a particularly pungent phrase. You also have these ideas changed over time. So you could have different workshops over the course of a year or two where the same idea was presented in to different degrees or evolving. So his ideas of novelty, you can hear it evolve over time. I said that I first heard some of this in the late 90s. He died in the mid 90s, 95, 96. Can't remember exactly when. I have some other videos on McKenna from a while ago that I'll dig up and include in the links here, because I've referenced him before as a real inspiration for how I want to teach and communicate. Because his style is inspired, it's bardic in a way, and it is marginalian in the sense that it can be a topic, and that topic is articulated, and then imagine a document, imagine a parchment, like a medieval parchment with the text, and then there's the intended illuminations, but then over the course of centuries, different scribes would underline and highlight, add in their own commentary, recopy, maybe revise the original text, but certainly provide a commentary on the original. And that entire process is built into McKenna's brain, right, of original illuminations, marginalia, and then that's what we get in the cassette tapes. These videos that I do are really inspired by that idea and by that technique. So obviously I don't script these. I do have a talking point that I start with. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 that I might write down and think I want to hit these points. But there's a state of mind that I get into, that McKenna gets into, that's available to all of us, that is just really responsive. I'll say something, and often what I say in these videos is unscripted, prompted only by an initial idea, and as unexpected to me as it is to you. I will sometimes say a perfectly coherent sentence, and it's almost as if I've stepped aside to let that sentence come out. And I will find myself thinking that the word that I'm about to say does not make any sense. It's not the right word. It's the wrong word. And it often is the wrong word. Uh, and yet it gives the sentence still maintains its meaning, even with the wrong word. And that wrong word creates a friction, a heat, a frisson that propels other ideas. So we're going to talk about these two ideas, and they're deeply inspired by McKenna, from McKenna. But I want to really stress that the idea of this open-ended, just hit record and go, that's the core of McKenna, because what that shows is that there's a pool of information, a pool of ideas that we have access to. It's available to us as we are open to it. And it's almost like the content of these videos, it is secondary to the experience of witnessing these ideas coalesce. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow for the first real video in the series, where we'll be talking about the eschaton and how that initiates the precipitation of consciousness. It's a pretty good one, right? So thank you. Keep your wits about you.